Boy, do I have some good news for you. And the good news is that you're already in your power. You don't need to step into it. You don't need to find it. In fact, you're so within your power that you can't even see it. That's how deep in it you are. It's right here. It's right in your face. So, what I'm going to help you do is learn how to take a step back so that you can see it for what it is. And then when you do see it, to not run away from it or be scared of it. Hi, my name is Sage. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, all the comments, all the likes, all the subscribes. It's been making my day to see you guys just interact with my content, and I'm super grateful that you enjoy it. Now let's get right on to it. Tip number one that I have: learn how to be present with yourself. You don't even have to meditate to be able to do this. The way you learn to be present is in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the negative emotions that you don't enjoy experiencing it. When you, let's say something triggers you, it doesn't have to be like a super deep trigger, just something that gets that initial rise out of you. You probably feel it in your chest, most likely, or in your tummy. We have this tendency to, like, instead of letting ourselves fully feel it, we kind of try to push it off, whether it's us quickly reaffirming within ourselves the opposite of what was triggered, or just focusing on how we can make ourselves feel better. A lot of times we fail to receive the message of the emotion that's coming up because we don't like to be present with it. So the quickest way to take back your power is to be present with your emotions. Imagine your emotions as like your little, I don't want to say minions, but like your foot soldiers, right? We're learning how to be the queen, the royalty of your experience. And it starts with your foot soldiers, that being your emotions. They're the one that's telling you what's going on in your empire. But if you're not allowing yourself to receive those messages, how can you harness your full power? You have to be able to look at your emotions and say, I am big enough to hold all of you. And when I say hold, that doesn't mean, to attach yourself or to identify yourself with whatever pain or sadness or anger that you're experiencing. You're looking at your emotions and saying, I see you. What do you have for me? What is it that you're trying to tell me about myself? And when you realize that your emotions are really just there to empower you in some way, whether it was to protect you, whether it's to teach you, whether it's to let you know that your boundaries have been violated in some way, or you're not appreciating yourself, you realize that your emotions are like there to build you up, to hype you up. And there's nothing wrong with feeling those emotions. It's about how you handle them and how you respond in those situations where those emotions come up. And when you learn how to do that, you'll start to feel better about yourself. You'll start to feel more empowered, and you'll start to build a sense of inner security. So when that other people piss you off, you don't look at them and say, how dare you? You look at them and you might check them if they were actually rude to you, but then you'll look at yourself and be like, okay, what is this emotion communicating about me? Number two, this is kind of attached to number one, but you need to have some sort of practice that allows you to tap into your emotional body. Regulating your nervous system is something you might have heard of, and you can do that. I've been doing that through breath work, but there's other modalities that you can look into as well. I'm not going to talk about them because that's not what I have been doing, so I'm going to stay in my little field of expertise. Breath work has been so incredibly helpful for me because the amount of issues in the past that I did not realize that I suppressed, or I did not realize I felt a type of way about, have all been coming up through breath work. They're all coming up to the surface. Now, it's challenging, and I'm not even going to hold you. If you feel like you would rather walk through this with a therapist, I highly encourage it. But in the position that I'm in right now, breath work is the modality that I have been using to do that. I was journaling this morning. I was journaling words from my shadow self, and we'll get into that in a minute. But as I was journaling, I wrote down a certain sentence and I just started crying, and it surprised the hell out of me because I'm not usually that in tune with my emotions like that. Doing breath work helps to unearth experiences, emotions, trauma that may not be so easily accessible on a conscious level. When you're doing this breath work, it quiets your mind, and it's something about the increase of, I don't know if it's oxygen or whatever in your body, that brings these things to the surface that your brain can't consciously suppress for you anymore. Number 3, affirmations. I just made a video about why your affirmations aren't working. I'm going to link that down below, because if you rolled your eyes or anything at affirmations, odds are you need to watch that video, because you cannot have proper affirmations that work for you without one, and maybe even tip number 2. Okay, if you aren't really touching on the core wound of the issue, then all the affirmations that you're doing are just like band-aids. You're going to be wondering, man, I've been saying these affirmations for months, years at this point. Why is it still not sinking in? Well, it's because you ain't touching on what the real issue is. So, affirmations, things like, people tend to have core wounds of like not being enough, needing validation, which is usually rooted in not being enough, not being lovable, things like that. Like, I'm all for affirmations such as I love myself, I'm beautiful, I'm a baddie, or whatever other affirmations you're using, but you have to make sure that you're including affirmations that really touch on those wounds. And what I have been doing and that I have found extremely helpful is, once I got down to my wounds and the affirmations that I needed, such as mine in particular is feeling like I'm not good enough. Well, was, because we're moving through it. But what I did was I recorded an affirmation for myself in UR so I could have somebody telling me while I'm sleeping. And it's very repetitive, and I know it's working. When I'm in my dream, I can hear it. Okay, so I put that on autopilot at night, every night when I go to sleep. And then in the morning, I do a I am enough meditation, and then I will be present for these affirmations that I say. I know a lot of people kind of just do their affirmations on audio, set it and forget it, and that's fine too, but it's not to me, because I used to do that. Now that I'm actually being present with my affirmations, and I'm repeating them as the audio says them, big difference. So that is tip number 3. This might be controversial, tip number 4, but this is the truth, and I'm learning this, and I'm standing on business. Empowerment also comes from realizing that you are not in control. You are not in control of what happens in your life, but you are in control of how you perceive what happens in your life. I love to watch someone named Bashar. If you've never heard of him, go check him out. I've learned so much from him. And something that he said that stuck with me was, fate does exist in the sense of, you, before you incarnate into this life, you are destined to walk down this certain hallway, right? But how you walk down the hallway, or how you get down the hallway, is up to you. You can walk, you can skip, you can jump, you can crawl, you can skate, however you want. But that hallway is the hallway. It's up to us how we choose to define what we experience. And I'm not just saying like, oh, if something shitty happens to you, it's up to you to be grateful and see it as like a positive experience. I'm not about to get into toxic positivity, because that's what it is. Now, if you're capable of seeing the gratitude in that moment, more power to you, and that is your choice. But when I say it's up to us and how we experience that hallway, it means that when you focus on embodying how you always want to feel, something that I realized, okay, as a kid, I felt unwanted. I felt like nobody wanted to be my friend. I felt like my siblings didn't like me. All my life, I wanted to have this sense of belonging, right? And so a lot of times, it resulted in me trying to have control over what made me feel chosen. I started focusing on what it feels like within me to be chosen. I started working on how I can change how I innately feel and not having it be based on what's showing up in my reality, if that makes sense. So when you let go of control, which is a scary thing for the ego to do, the sense of freedom and power that comes with that is unmatched. Ironically, it's when you let go that you have it all, kinda. So that is my 4 tips. If you feel inclined to, you can go watch my previous shadow work video. I will link that down below if you need a little bit more help in managing your emotions and childhood experiences, or even something that happened last week that's still bothering you. I have been told it's very helpful. And if there is something that you would like for me to talk about, please let me know. I'm happy to do so. And thank you so much for being here. I intend that you found this helpful, and I will see you in the next video.